Hey guys, in today's episode, we are going to talk about Halo. Not the ring above your head, not an angel Halo. You know what I'm talking about. This is a gaming podcast. We're going to talk about fucking Halo. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to episode 13 of the podcast. We're going to be talking about my favorite game that there ever was, and that is Halo. The Master Chief, John 117. Spartan 117. I'll get crucified for that later. When I first got Halo, it was when I got my first Xbox. When I was, I believe, either 10 or 11. I can't remember. It's been a long time ago since I got that game, and I remember getting the Xbox and also having the Doom controller on the Xbox that was like way too heavy way too big for my little hands to reach. I ended up having to strain my hand just to play it. But that was the first game that really did it for me, guys. I loved Pokemon. I was obsessive about Pokemon as a kid, but it just didn't, it didn't have enough. I don't know what it was. It's a fantastic series, and it's crazy how it's still going today. But it just didn't have that long lasting, the fire didn't burn as long for that as it did with Halo. I remember when I first got it, and it was unlike anything I had ever played before. This was kind of it was the first of its kind. It revolutionized multiplayer matchmaking. Not the original Halo, but it had such an impactful story and was just I can't really tell you, it was just such a monumental moment in my life. And that was the game that really did it for me. I found myself just obsessively wanting to play it, and I remember we I was in the swim team at the time, and we would actually, guys, we had these old tube TVs that weighed probably close to 50 to 60 pounds. I mean, these were massive. And this game had such a grasp on people that we used to take our TVs, unhook all of our Xbox networking equipment, and have these shitty little routers and bring them over to our friend's house to play, either whether it was 4, 8, 12 or 16 player Halo matches, where we were all on a 20s between a 27 and a 32-inch tube TV with a quarter of the screen, yelling back and forth to people in the other room. And there was just nothing that can put a price tag on that. And those were some of the most fond memories of my life, because it was something that was universally accepted. It was this great big thing that no one really ever talked about, at the office. It was something people did at home because, gaming still wasn't really gaming was still just considered a waste of time, and it wasn't really going anywhere, but it was just a source of entertainment that people used. And fast forward to Halo 2. This was really and you'd be hard pressed to find someone who disagrees. In my opinion, it's the iPhone of multiplayer matchmaking. I mean, it was really invented with Halo 2. And that was my upbringing, that was really Halo 1 paved a really good path, and the campaign was phenomenal. It was just insane. And Halo 2 really, really, really took off because now at this time, this is basically the invention of Xbox Live. This is where Xbox Live started, was with Halo 2 multiplayer matchmaking. And being able to search in lobbies and find people to play with, and without having to play with someone locally was guys, that was a huge deal, because up until then we had Xbox Connect, which was really I don't even know how it worked, but you just downloaded it on your computer, found a random server on the computer, and then joined through a system link or a custom game on the actual Xbox. And it was just so backwards, and it was our own little underground Xbox Live, and we still use that whenever Xbox Live went down, and it was a crazy time, And Halo 2, not only did it revolutionize matchmaking, but people started getting really creative, and that's when That's when, modding really got popular, was with Halo. To give you an example, you could modify the maps to fly around in tanks and have your battle rifle shoot tank bullets like a turret and never have to reload your ammo. And Microsoft quickly caught on to doing that because people were actually modifying their Xboxes and swapping out components in the Xbox and uploading their own software and basically installing their own hardware to have these modified maps on. And it was like the first version of Forge. And Microsoft quickly caught on to that and started banning people when it saw that you were reading games from your hard drive. Because that was also another thing that spawned from it, was that people got crafty and figured out how to literally burn a game onto their Xbox hard drive and go return it. Back in the day, we used to have these things called Blockbuster, and you could literally go rent a game from Blockbuster, rip it to your hard drive, and go return it. So that was another byproduct of what came with that. It opened a lot of different doors, and I'm sure Microsoft has a different view on it than the users did, because we sure had a blast. A lot of people had a blast doing that. For the record, I never did that to my Xbox. But I had some friends that did that, and it was a really good time. It also introduced new forms of it introduced a lot of forms of cheating, but and that was fun in of its own right. And I'm really upfront and really honest about my story. Before I started getting very competitive, I was a cheater. I was one of those guys. I would go scout, search all the GameStops for those 1 month Xbox Live trials to give to someone who modded their Xbox in order to help boost my rank. And guys, it got to the point where Microsoft was banning people who had the game where it was being read from the hard drive. But what people would do, and so then you introduce soft mods where the mods actually were just it was a piece of software that you installed on your Xbox, but it only worked on new maps. And so kids would literally stick butter knives in the trays of their Xbox while Halo was running to stop the disc at the right moment and let it not load old maps. So that way you could only get the new maps. Like, guys, it was just insane the lengths that people went to, to cheat the system, to hack things, it was just bananas. I wanted to tell that story because it's hysterical. And I was one of those. I wasn't a butter knife kid. I just would, get codes for people and, hopefully that they made good on it and they helped me out. Most of them did, some of them didn't, but you just chalk that up to the game. And then, I can go over all the types of cheating, but that's neither here nor there. But long story short, I ended up trusting this kid with my Microsoft account, and he ended up stealing my username, stealing my password, and ended up trying to spend close to what was equivalent to $5,000 worth of Microsoft points. And Microsoft ended up not only banning his Xbox Live gamer tag, but they ended up banning his internet, his ISP, his IP address. They IP banned him, and that was crazy, and that was a big wake up call for me, and the Halo scene, because all of a sudden I got completely taken advantage of and realized the crowd that I was hanging out with. And I felt completely, violated, to tell you the truth. And I felt like an idiot for trusting someone, with account information, someone I didn't even know. And so that's really where I started getting good, and that's really when I started and the motive was purely to stomp on those kids, to find a way to beat them, to prove something to myself, almost to make myself feel better that I just got duped. You know what I mean? So my motives for getting good at the game were that I was embarrassed that I got taken advantage of, but I never really wanted to admit to anyone. PSA, y'all are the first one if you're listening to this. But I started getting, having a lot of fun with it, and all of a sudden, it unlocked this new this new passion that I had, and I found out as a kid that I was really competitive. You know, we had a couple core group of guys that we would all go home and play with, and it was a blast. You know, I would spend hours and hours and hours on that game, because mind you, I'm a swimmer, and I spent my whole life in the pool. So any moment I wasn't in the pool and I wasn't doing homework, I didn't really have any stamina or any energy to play with, you know, to like go out and like do normal things that kids did back then. I just wanted to play video games. That's all I really had energy to do, and all I really wanted to do, to tell you the truth. I just wasn't happy doing anything else. You know, and Halo just, it has that soft spot in my heart because of a lot of different reasons. You know, number one, it was the first multiplayer of its kind. It was insanely competitive. The meta of the game was just, I mean, unbelievably competitive. It's where a lot of esports were born. You know, and it's always been a passion of mine, you know, and there's only two other games that I play, and that's Gears of War and Halo. And those are the only two games that can even come remotely close to doing that. We're going to fast forward a little bit through my years of playing until a couple months ago. Well, really we're going to fast forward to the past 5 years. Halo as a franchise has been pretty dead, you know, and the community is very salty, and the community is very divided, because when Bungie left, Halo, and they went to go make Destiny, 343 Industries took over, and that was right when the Xbox One came out. It was the generation right after the 360. It's kind of the current, you know, it was the beginning of what we're currently in right now, of this generation of console. And guys, they like, all they had to do was, you know, what they did was they had the original titles that were made for Xbox and Xbox 360, and they just had to put it, you know, make it work on Xbox One. And they could not deliver. It was a shit show from the beginning. The game was actually unplayable for the first, like, honestly, the first month. And when I mean unplayable, you could play campaign, but you could not even search matchmaking and find a game. Like, it was that the servers were terrible. It was a botched release, and it was really bad. And then once you could find games, then you couldn't find games with your friends. You could only search solo queue. And then when you got the parties fixed, then you had the issue of the ranks resetting. You know, and that was my rank ended up getting, I think, reset 4 times before they finally fixed it for good. And by that time, I was so defeated because I had gotten close to my 50 twice. And I was so done with it. And I was like, you know, until they get their shit together, I'm not going to play. And then you couple that with the release of Halo 5, which is a completely different play style. You know, Halos 1 through 4, yes, I'll mention 4, even though that's all I'll say on 4. The mechanics were in Reach. The mechanics are very slow. There's not, you know, sprint wasn't really introduced until Reach, and that, even then, it was a very limited sprint. But there was no clamber, there was no thrust, there was no. They introduced a lot of new elements, and so when you combine a bunch of different elements with a really bad release of the classic that just sold millions and just is a dynasty, you combine that with a completely new play style, and that I mean, I love the game, don't get me wrong, but you combine those two at the same time, it was the perfect storm for disaster. You know, it was the perfect storm, and you know, half the community was divided and loved it, and then the other half of the community, or I don't know what the percentage was, but you know, hated it because it was like they tried to be Call of Duty with the sprinting and the sliding and the this, and it's like Halo is Halo, and stop trying to be COD, and it just, you know, spiraled. You know, until now, it's been 5 years since Halo has released a title. And the content just kept dwindling. And don't get me wrong, guys, Halo 5 had some great years in esports. I think they had the largest Halo or console prize pool in history, which was, I think it was a 1.5 or a $2.5 million prize pool, which is phenomenal. Like Halo 5 esports did really well for like the first 2 years. And then content just got stale. Content got stale. It became less and less popular. Even the tournaments towards the end, you were getting maybe 10,000 viewers on Twitch, and it was a very rough spot. And this is, towards the end of Halo 5, the Halo 5 era is right when I got into streaming, right when I got into broadcasting. And so you can buy, like, it honestly kind of worked in my favor because I got to build a small audience, like I got to build a more loyal audience because it wasn't as hard to get discovered. So it kind of worked out in my way. But there was only a limited amount of Halo people that viewed Halo, and there's not very many new people, joining Twitch to watch it. Let's just put it like that. And so, you fast forward that to last year. From that time, they made the announcement that they were going to be remastering the Master Chief Collection on the Xbox, and that they were going to listen to the community and they were going to do multiple flights. And it was like, what a cool thing. It's like they're listening to their community. They're realizing that their content's dry, and this is what a lot of people want. And it worked really well. Master Chief Collection all of a sudden became playable. And then they dropped the bombshell later on that they were going to be remastering all of the titles for PC. Because the Master Chief Collection did good, and they got some more esports tournaments out of it. They got some more, it was good. But once they announced it on PC, that was the big surprise. But not only that, but it was their move to announce it on Steam. And that was just fucking incredible, because you look at Xbox Live player base and you look at Steam viewer base or player base, like you just expanded the reach to the entire world. And let me tell you, nostalgia sells. There's so many people that once that announcement came out, they're like, man, I've missed Halo and I wish it was on PC, but now I can play it. That's a huge deal, man. Like I remember getting chills when I watched that at, I believe it was at E3. I can't remember where the announcement was first made. But it was phenomenal that they were going to do that. And it took a little longer to release it than a lot of people had hoped, but they did it right. And the game works really well. And the way they released it was doing Halo Reach, and then they still haven't remastered the other ones or released the other ones just yet. But the main point I'm driving at here, and the kind of the pinnacle of this story, is that when Halo Reach was dropped on PC, I believe a month ago, viewership went from maybe 3,000, 5,000 on a good day, 10,000 on a tournament, on a Tuesday or on a Wednesday, went to over 100,000 viewers, and was actually the number one viewed game on Twitch over Fortnite. And I don't think it calculated all the views because it had Master Chief Collection and Halo Reach. And so I don't even think they counted Halo Reach viewers, but just Master Chief Collection had over 100,000 viewers. Like, Halo hasn't been in that kind of a spotlight in over probably 10 years, probably since Halo 3, if I'm being perfectly honest. Like, that was the last time I remember Halo being that big. And so for this game to come back, I think the game was released 15 years ago when it was first announced, and now we're getting a second coming, and it's toppling over the largest viewed game with the current audience. That's fucking insane. That is absolutely incredible, and all of a sudden this game is now relevant. People are talking about Halo again. And what a cool thing that Microsoft is doing right now. 343 either had, like, if they didn't make this announcement, they either had the power to nail the franchise, like bury the franchise in a coffin, and put it to rest, or reignite the spark, reignite the flame that was once in this game. And they did the latter, which I'm happy to say, because that, and you combine that with Ninja moving over to Mixer, earlier this year. And Halo Infinite, the new title being set for holiday 2020. I mean, this is shaping up to be a phenomenal year for Halo, or upcoming year for Halo, because for those of you who don't know, Ninja used to actually made his name initially as a Halo Reach Pro, and so the move of him going to Mixer, which is a Microsoft-owned platform, is going to do wonders for that. And all of a sudden, you're going to see a very big presence. Halo may never topple Fortnite. I secretly hope it does, but it's now relevant again. And the fact that a game that was released 15 years ago is making a comeback in this generation of video games is absolutely phenomenal. And what I'm hoping is that this spark is almost like they reinvented the iPhone again. It's like it's this generation's new iPhone for video games, and it's a catalyst for game producers and game developers to start following its lead, and what they're doing, because they used to be a pioneer, and I feel like they're getting back to their roots, and 343 has finally figured it out, and hopefully this can be like I said, a catalyst for upcoming games, because games right now are just honestly boring. Anything new is not that fun, and I have not been, Gears 5 has been really good to me lately, but there's not been a game besides that I've just been like, man, I want to spend $60. I cannot, and where I just always, I can't stop thinking about the game. There hasn't been a game in a long time that's given me that feeling, where I just have this obsessive need to play or I won't be okay. So I'm hoping and praying for it. Thank you for listening to my ramble and my Halo speech. For those of you who don't know, it is one of the 3 games I play. I broadcast on Twitch, and I play Halo, Gears 5, and Call of Duty. Gears 5 is actually, I'm on a pro team right now, and I'm going to be entering it in competitions this year. But Halo is still bae for me. Halo is still like the number one. Gears is not that far behind, but it's pretty close. But we'll see. And I'm excited for the future, man. Halo's relevant again, baby. And that just puts a smile on my face, and I hope it does yours too. Have a great day. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have, it would mean the world if you gave this podcast a subscribe or a follow. Also, if you have any questions or if you want to have a conversation more about this, hit me up on Twitter at Boonafide Gaming. Also, for new listeners, my main source of content is I'm a broadcaster on Twitch. I stream Gears 5. I'm a competitive player for a Gears 5 pro team called Quantum Gaming. And I broadcast live Saturday and Sunday afternoons between 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if you haven't checked me out in there, I highly suggest it. I'm extremely animated. I'm going to get in your face and have a great time doing it. I'll see you out there. Happy gaming.